I have a neighbor who is a chef and he always is asking if we want free fish, which I always say yes. And then I follow it with, this is helping me so much. I didn't have a dinner plan. So I think he's thinks I'm the type of mom that doesn't cook dinner for my kids. Part two on the fish. I heard him the other day offering the fish to my neighbors on the diagonal and then my neighbors on the other diagonal. And I thought that was our thing. And now I want to move.
Now you're not so special anymore.
Seriously, I'm not. And maybe he's going to teach me a lesson that you need to actually cook for your children.
Oh my God. I love that. I love that. Well, I tried to be really a good mom yesterday and took them to McDonald's after school. We stayed in line for, I think, about 30 minutes and we got to the window and I realized I had forgotten my credit card at home. 30 minutes late for gymnastics and she was really hungry. So there was a mom win right there.
Applause!
Welcome to Creative Mamas Unplugged. We are your hosts. I'm Cherice Barton.
And I'm Shelly Hutchinson. Here at Creative Mamas Unplugged, we navigate the hell out of being creatives while raising humans with humor and heart.
We have honest conversations,
hear wise words from fellow badass parents, and share hilarious stories from the front lines.
Listen, parenthood is one of the most creative, most difficult jobs in the world. You are not alone, and you deserve to be happy.
Welcome back, Creative Mamas. We just had the most amazing guest on, Amy Marie Hann. She is a mom of 3 kids, and she talked to us about how to parent with ADHD and executive functioning, parent neurodivergent kids, and what that looks like, how to create a calm, less chaotic home, and how to mom it with some confidence. This really hit home for me because I am ADHD, executive functioning, and as much as I think my ADHD is my superpower because it helps my life so much. I feel like I can be a creative genius when I need to be, and I could problem solve till the cows come home. But if I need to get all of us out of the house at the same time, we're probably going to be pretty late and we're going to forget a bunch of stuff. It helped me so much. And I also just feel so grateful that Amy is out there creating content for moms who are experiencing neurodivergence, because that has not always been the norm with parenting advice from doctors and experts. Usually we get a textbook that is a catch-all, one size fits all. And as we talk about on this pod, one size fits all is not the way to go.
Thank you so much for facilitating this incredible conversation today, Shelly. I learned so much from Amy. So I encourage everyone to purchase this book, Master The Mundane, because whether you have been diagnosed with ADHD, whether or not your children have been diagnosed with ADHD, there are so many nuggets that she has to offer, especially with creatives, because our minds do function a little bit differently. And there were just so many moments today where I was nodding my head, and feeling quite emotional.
You know what, one of my favorite things that she said, I like when she talked about doing the mundane task and rewarding yourself with like a dopamine hit task. Like, I'm going to call the dentist and reschedule the appointment. Boring. Hate it. And then you know what I'm going to do next? I'm going to go organize the dog's toys.
Right.
Brings me so much joy.
Right.
That's my reward.
Yeah. And I like that she talked about how things like trauma can mimic ADHD. A lot of what I've been going through, I find, has really affected my executive functioning in a way that I never, ever had that problem. I just found it really fascinating. You will love this episode. So let's dive in with the incredible Amy Marie Hann.
Tell us a little bit about your book, what drove you to write it, and what the process has been like for you to be an author of a book. Is this your first one?
It is my first one. And it has been great. Crazy, but great. You know, one of the things I tell people a lot, especially moms with ADHD, is that we have to love what we're doing. And oftentimes, you know, there's an idea of something that you think that you're going to love. And then in actuality, it's like really painful and boring. So I'm really thankful that this has ended up not being that, you know, it was kind of a gamble. But so they came to me. I'd already at the time had a course in community helping moms with ADHD called Master The Mundane. So the publisher reached out to me about a book project, and it was something that I kind of always was on the back burner of like, oh, I'd love to do that one day. I didn't kind of think I was in the place to do it, but I went through with it, and I would say it was really, really good because I already had a course in community I was teaching. I already had this system that I created. And so I basically took a lot of that and then put that into the book so that I could bring my system, my strategy to more people. And also through that process, I think I solidified, I got better at doing a lot of the things that I already do. I feel like I got a lot of clarity and I really enjoyed the process. I feel like now writing a book, it's easiest for me to start with the written word and thinking about, I've done what I do in creating content so many different ways. A lot of people just want to talk. It's so much easier for me to start writing in anything that I do. So in that way, I kind of had a feeling that I might like to write a book. And like with writing emails, I've gotten really good feedback in the emails that I write, but I'm terrible at grammar. So I think that was what I was most afraid of. That is not my thing. So anyways, I liked the process, but the whole idea of like writing a book and having a big creative project and just kind of going deep on it, that I really loved.
When they presented this to you, like, I feel like if someone said to me, you have a great community, I want you to write a book, my executive functioning and ADHD would immediately, I feel like I might freeze at the thought of it. Did you?
I think initially getting started, once I had like a chapter down, it was a lot easier. But like I signed my contract and I definitely procrastinated the most getting going. It was like, okay, how am I going to do this? Like, what's it going to look like? Then once I got going, I kind of was like, okay, I like this. And the hardest part was finding chunks of time, especially initially, because when you're kind of getting it all out, it's like you need kind of chunks of uninterrupted time. And with mom life, that's just really hard, especially being able to not, just be able to focus. So I did do a few, like go to a hotel for like a night where I could just like get stuff out. That was the hardest, but I also really liked it. I liked being able to like get lost in my thoughts and have kind of that deep focus. I'd never had that opportunity before, that kind of creative pressure, but I really liked that. I had a pace of work. I can see it. I think of like people who do movies and they could like go and do something for like 3 months and be all in. And I'm like, I could definitely see myself liking that kind of way of working. So
yeah, we often talk about that. Like Cherice will travel for work and sometimes she brings her girls and sometimes not. But when she doesn't, right, Cher, like you talk about that creative pressure where you can just, and that gives a nice dopamine hit, doesn't it? Because you're really...
Oh my gosh, totally. Especially when you can like work through an idea without interruptions. Because some of it's like so much in my head. I did actually recently this summer, I felt like I had been so focused on the book that there are so many other things that I've kind of been like, got later. And I took a week and I dropped my son off for camp. I went to a friend's house for a week and I actually created a new course, but it was like that same gift of like, it is just so great to be able to like create things without interruption and just be thinking about it. So it is a lovely gift. It's hard to do that as a mom. So
yeah, it's a very lovely gift. I have not been diagnosed with ADHD. However, so much of reading your bio and speaking with Shelly, can you just give us a quick little synopsis of when you talk about your course, your process, like what you offer?
Yes. So kind of like to back up. So I was diagnosed with ADHD as a child, which is kind of unique, like in the mid 80s, but I don't think I really understood. There's just a lot of information didn't exist then in terms of executive functioning, emotional regulation, perfectionism, like the ways that we know now. And a lot of the science part of that is still one of the studies that really like show a lot of these things are still in the works. But it really kind of hit the fan for me after having my third child. And it wasn't just that I was having my third child, but it was also my oldest was getting diagnosed with autism at the time. And so kind of understanding his needs were starting to come into play. And then I had just adopted a child. And then I was also kind of starting early perimenopause and had all these hormonal shifts. But kind of the crux of it is that I just didn't understand that the way my brain was wired meant that I needed to design my life differently than anyone else's. And that I was allowed to, because it was like, I just kind of always thought that I needed to do, looking at the way people organize or the way people manage their time and the way they manage their energy and just like, okay, I'm supposed to do that. And it was like my life kind of imploded. And so I kind of stepped way back. I was super burned out. And I think lots of moms can get in burnout. Yeah. And a lot of the symptoms, I think there's a lot of things that mimic ADHD where, burnout, there's a lot of other inflammation responses and different things, trauma and things that can mimic ADHD. But really the crux of it is that your executive functioning is limited. And so in order to kind of buy into that, you don't necessarily have to have a formal ADHD diagnosis and some of these kind of things that I teach people can be applicable, even if that's not the case. But for me, it kind of really honed in on this idea that I needed to design my life differently. I needed to be really strategic about my executive functioning expectations and how many boring things I was expecting myself to do. So I got really strategic about how many boring things I'm expecting myself to do, and then really designing a life where I'm making time for the things that are deeply energizing and stimulating. Because if you have an interest-driven brain, in order to be more productive at the boring things, you have to actually allow yourself to do the things that are interesting and stimulating. And a lot of the things that I do is, if you read an ADHD parenting book, it's all these things that they tell the parents to do for their kids. But I really help people reparent themselves with those same strategies, understanding that, we need to expect ourselves to do less boring things while at the same time making more time for the things that stimulate and energize us. And then I also my system, I think what makes it unique, what I teach people is it's really just the pace at which I do it. Because the thing is people with ADHD are very creative and curious people who love acquiring information. They don't need more information. They know what they should do. They just need a gentle process to actually implement it into their life that's realistic. So I think that's kind of what's unique about what I teach and how I teach it is, let's make it less complicated, because we make it super overly complicated and we try to change everything in our life at one time and then we get nowhere. So it's like we need to have change in multiple areas, but let's do that in a strategic, kind, intentional way. And that's kind of what I do in the book. The system that I lead people through in my course and community, I put that in the book to lead people gently through change at a pace. And especially if you understand that most people are starting this journey from a place of burnout and overwhelm, they need gentle and slow change.
That's so great, because normally, even with kids, what drives us to go get a diagnosis is the burnout in kids, or they're stuck, right? It's like, we don't understand why they're not processing this in school, and then I guess it's the same thing with mom figures. All of these parenting books that we got initially, or YouTube videos, or any kind of guidance that we got from doctors or specialists, all well-intended. But not once did I ever hear in the first 10 years of my kid's life was like, this is for moms with ADHD. Girls present differently than boys. With moms and with females, whether it's symptoms or behaviors of ADHD executive functioning might present differently than, we were taught it when we were growing up. Not once did I read a book that was like, if you have ADHD, a sleep schedule that's 8 to 8 might be really hard for you because you can barely keep a timer. Mm-hmm. I just feel like I never came across that. And when I see the content you have online and I see what you're doing for moms, it just fills me with so much hope and so much love for moms out there who, are ADHD and have these things going on while they're trying to operate and be a CEO of a household. Man, you're really doing the work. It's unbelievable. I'm really grateful.
Oh, well, thank you. That is so kind. And I think the kind of mom that I feel called to help is the mom that is that you probably wouldn't see that they're ADHD, because there's like the meme of like the mom who's like the hot mess. It's like there's always whether they call it type B mom or hot mess mom, or there's always some kind of new phrase where it's like the mom who's like falling apart. But in reality, I think a lot of the moms fall to kind of the things that I'm talking about is the moms who might look like they have it all together and they're working so hard, that they're more the perfectionistic moms, but they're being so hard on themselves that, you talked about like the boys oftentimes, and this isn't every boy, this is more the hyperactive boys, stereotypical boys in schools that get diagnosed is the kids that are causing trouble. They're like trying to start fights, or they're, very physical. But oftentimes what happens is, sometimes that energy goes out, but a lot of times the energy goes in, and it's like that beating yourself up. And it's that, and so one of the most common things I hear from moms is feeling like a failure, because it's like they feel like they are failing. But in reality, if you like pull back and get them talking, like their expectations for themselves are so out of whack, because they're trying to, homeschool 5 kids and then build a multi-million-dollar business and, do all the home stuff by themselves. And it's like they have all these, especially now with social media, like you look at these things and they're like, they think they should have like Joanna Gaines skills at decorating and then be able to have the like holiday spread. It's like they just expect so much of themselves in every area that like that's why they feel like such a failure. But at the root of that, they're creative and curious people, which is an amazing thing. You know, they have all these things they want to learn and they want to be good at, and which is what makes them such lovely, amazing people. But it's like they're trying to do all the things and then they just feel like they can't make progress in any of, and also they are big visionary thinkers who see all that's possible, but they are just putting so much pressure on themselves to do it all at once. And then you also have these kids that have big needs, which is a whole other thing, you know?
There's that. I mean, how do you, and this is part of your program, right, is like manage big needs of your kids and manage the plate that you have made full. What would you say for time management?
I think especially like the women that I work with are willing to slow down. They've kind of are like, this plate doesn't work. The plate is broken. I put so much stuff on it. I need to wipe the plate clean and then really figure out what really matters to me and for my family to function. Kind of understanding that the creative is a piece of it, the creative having these big ideas, but it's then being really strategic about what we're pursuing, and not pursuing everything at once, but getting, really narrowing down. And then also knowing that like the needs of your family, your neurodivergent kids need to be part of your plate, and not just your plate, your spouse's plate too. A big part of ADHD is that acceptance, and it sneaks up. There's this kind of mourning period when you realize like my family life needs to look different, or my kids have these unique needs. I might have had this vision of what family life was going to look like, and we were going to be able to go on all these trips, and we were going to, do all whatever it is. It's like, for example, you go to Disney World and you have a kid who is on the spectrum and gets super overstimulated. And it's okay. I had this plan of going on these things, these experiences. Every family is different. But those needs, you have to take them into consideration. And so I think there's a mourning of like realizing that you have to make space for that. You have to hold space for that. Because if you don't, it's going to be a constant dumpster fire. Because if you have kids, you have to plan ahead. And it's not like we drop our whole lives for our kids, because I think you still need to make time for that, to save space for those creative things that are interesting and those personal pursuits and those things that really light you up. That is a critical piece of it. But you also have to make space for the needs of your kids in terms of, and I try to just focus on like the basics, like connection, making sure your kids are getting enough sleep and making sure they're eating enough. So I'm not talking about like, okay, you need to devote your life to your kids being gluten and dairy free and, going to every single therapy. And because we can go on any of the tracks, you can like go off the rails just trying to do it perfectly. So I'm not saying you need to like be this perfect mom that devotes all of her time, because I think that can get a lot of people in trouble too. If they're like, I'm just not going to make any time for myself, and I'm just going to, be this like support mom that does all the things. And it's like, that's not healthy either. But I think just really accepting that your ADHD needs are going to impact the way you live and the way you do life and the way your family operates, and your kids' needs are also going to impact it. And that's a big piece of it.
Gosh, your ADHD is going to affect. I mean, there are so many times where, the boys will call me and they'll be like, we wore the wrong socks. I'm like, oh yeah, totally. I'm sure you did. I'll be right up. I'll bring you the right color socks. Or like, practice was at 5:15, not 5:30. Like, and you just kind of have to, I think, be forgiving of that. That can't be part of the stuff that goes on the plate and like gets all guilty in there. Let that go. And is that what you mean? Like there are some things that you may have to be forgiving of yourself with and realize that like you had a slip up, or
we have to learn forgiveness and be able to extend that to ourselves, extend it to our kids. ADHD is going to happen, and balls are going to get dropped. Knowing that your kid has sensory needs, and before soccer practice, it's a little bit of drama getting the cleats on, and you're going to need to leave more time for that. You know what I mean? Your life is going to need a little bit more space, because there is going to be more of these emotional ups and downs. And so you can't be scheduling yourself to the minute or expect that this kid is going to just be easy and put them on quickly right away, or you're going to order the special socks. There are these things, these needs that they have, in staying ahead of them. It takes energy. So it takes time and energy for us to be intentional to help our kids function better. So it's not like that all of our space is gonna go to that, but it's also just being aware. Like I talk a lot about like neurotypical moms raising neurotypical kids. There are these things that we deal with on a daily basis. My daughter, for example, did not want to go to school today. She had this massive meltdown. Also, her shoes, I just returned the second pair of school shoes that I got her because they weren't comfy. She just has very specific sensory needs. So it's like that need of hers takes time and energy from me. So I can't compare myself to a mom who doesn't have these needs and expect myself to do life the same way as her. So if I look at this other mom and it's like, oh, well, she's volunteering at the PTA 2 days a week and she's, her porch looks so great for Halloween and blah, 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 like all these things that she's doing. And I'm saying like, well, there are needs that I need to meet for my family that she is not meeting, there are things that are taking my time and energy that aren't being asked of her. So I can't expect myself to be showing up in the same ways as her, because if I'm going to allow those things to take up space and not, expect this kid to just fall in line, and even just the parenting and the emotions and like all of those things, that my life is going to need more, I'm going to need more margin.
We have this funny, like we have this picture and my husband labels it why we're always late. And I know we had to be somewhere at 12. We got there at 1 and we stopped at a Krispy Kreme and there were this big shelf of all these hats. And we were all, look, we're 3 out of 4 over here. Okay. ADHD over here. And we're in there and we got the hats on and we're trying them on and we're having a blast. And we were taking all these pictures. Well, you try this one on. And that is the buffer that we need to leave, because if we stop at Krispy Kreme and there's gear and merch, my family's going to try it. We're all going to try it on and we're just going to get colorful with it. And then we're going to decide to have like a photo shoot. This is why we're always late. That's our buffer, right? Like our distraction, the Krispy Kreme hats.
It's also kind of being self-aware of that. We're like, This is the things that are going to happen. And so I think sometimes we do these things and we're like, why did we do that? But then we're like, our family always does that. It's okay for that to happen. Krispy Kreme isn't a 15-minute stop. It's a 45-minute stop. Being able to like know some of those things about yourself.
Right.
And we're 5 out of 5 here. So I completely understand.
Creative Mamas Unplugged is produced by Breatheasy Productions. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to give my mama 5 stars and keep coming back. Thanks to us kids, there are plenty of stories to tell. And you are not alone.
We are inspired by you. Thank you for joining our Creative Mamas community. Please give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment, support Creative Mamas Unplugged on Patreon to get your name in the credits, receive extra content, and earn some fun prizes. With this, we can keep creating, uplifting, and growing this incredible community together. We love you so much. Applause!